Hello, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to share my testimony, or the rest of it, of how God saved me from witchcraft and destiny swapping. My neighbor was a witch, and I want to discuss how these witches siphon your energy. We'll continue discussing because I shared a little bit of that in episode 3, I believe. And just how the impact can, what kind of an impact it have on you. So I previously mentioned how I started feeling like gravely ill and how no doctor could help or diagnose me. And they all kept saying it was all in my head. And at this point, I wasn't functioning well at all, like in anything, in all things, in all areas of my life. I struggled with a lot of brain fog that I couldn't shake off, and I was experiencing excruciating pain, um, and it was mostly in my lower back. Um, my menstrual cycle was increasingly painful and heavy. Every month, I felt faint, as if it was like, I don't know, like I was like running out of blood, like I was very weak. And my performance at work deteriorated to the point where the department head started devising a plan to let me go. My life had just turned upside down from all of this witchcraft and black magic and whatever they were using on their evil dark altars. I began to feel like isolated with no one to help me. I couldn't really talk to anyone about what was going on. People think you crazy. I was very insecure at the time about my appearance, and however, I didn't want to go outside. I didn't even want to go to work, but I had to pay my bills. I lost so much weight. My hair became thinner. My skin broke out with what looked like lesions. And my skin also became very dark with like this uneven pigmentation. I'm sorry, something is in my eye. And my gums were swollen and bleeding, and I had developed gum disease seemingly out of nowhere. I just, yeah, you can't make this stuff up. And people I knew, including my colleagues and neighbors, started gossiping, suggesting I might be on drugs or, I had some sort of disease like HIV. I even heard that I had AIDS. I felt like, but I started to look that way. I guess my appearance had shifted. I didn't think I looked like that. I thought what it did was progress aging and whatever curses and spells they were using. Um, it just, my grays and just everything was just out of whack. And I felt like, everyone had turned against me. I was deeply depressed, but I kept fighting through it. Just kept fighting because, I just in this world by myself. It's just me and my son. So I couldn't give up. I wanted to live. But things began to worsen this was around 2016, and this is after my neighbor moved. It just got bad, like even worse than what it was. And fast forward to 2017, I was let go from my position at work. And, finally I actually resigned. I was resigning, but they were letting me go at the same time. But I gave them my resignation letter when they called me in the office because I knew this was going to happen and I didn't want anything on my background where I was let go for, um, my failure to perform or whatever the case would be, and I started using like temporary agencies until I found something permanent. However, every assignment I took felt as if that same spirit that was just destroying my life was following me. It was jumping from body to body because everyone I interacted with seemed to reject me. And I just found myself going from job to job, assignment to assignment. But despite these struggles, I tried to keep myself looking polished because, we live in a superficial world. And during this time, I was living in the biggest city in the United States where appearance and your economic status were everything. And I had no family in the city, no husband, just me and my son, who was a young adult at the time, just started. And but he was still figuring his thing out. He lived independently, but with a roommate. And during this time, I met a man, a nice gentleman with whom I had been dating for about, let's say, 6 to 7 months. And I met him prior, earlier on, but we wasn't dating. We just talked over the phone. And then we lost contact, and then we reconnected again. We crossed paths. I didn't realize that he was sent by the enemy, in the beginning, to further the devil's agenda, using him and these witches as vessels, against me. I was, still drinking occasional glasses of wine and engaging with him, which I now recognize was an open door for, any spell or curse to continue to take root because it's sin, you know. I believe he was compromised and